Badia.
Добрий вечір, вітаємо. Buenas tardes a todos. Welcome to the EUI's 50th anniversary live stream. We are live!
Hello. How is it going, Jan? Welcome to the EUI 50th anniversary, everyone. We are live streaming from the Radio Cavolo corner. We have a lot of fantastic guests coming in right now. We may want to lower down the monitor a little bit. Let me see what
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Good morning, Leopoldo, meanwhile, and good morning, everyone who is connecting today to Radio Cavolo. We are live broadcasting from the EUIdeas event, live here from this beautiful 11th century monastery, right outside of Florence. We're really out on the outskirts of Florence, but it's an amazing place. Unfortunately, the weather is not super nice today, but we do have, as you can see also from the people around us, a full house today visiting us here in Fiesole. So it's really a good day. It's a great start, and we're really looking forward to being with you.
With the morning flow.
With the morning flow, which is the title for show. And thank you, Leopoldo, for doing some housekeeping. Meanwhile, we're set up here in an open cloister, so there's a lot of things happening around us.
Jan, so the event has been very dynamic, a lot of great speakers. What are your impressions so far? This is a new dynamic of an event. We are having a new edition, a rebranded type of format. So what do you think? What are your impressions?
Exactly. So first of all, a bit of context. This event is called EUIdeas, the power of knowledge. And the idea of this event is really to make sure that what we are doing here at the European University Institute is actually evident to the externals. We want to showcase our research, we want to showcase what we do, what are the topics that we work on, and importantly, perhaps raise some very good questions so that Europe can answer. Yesterday, we kicked off our 50th anniversary celebrations with a keynote speech by a series of keynote speeches from very high-level institutional speakers. And there is one quote which really stuck with me by Roberta Metsola, and she was basically asking us to not only come up with the questions that are necessary for Europe, but also think about the answers that could be the answers for those questions. And that, I think, was really something that resonated with me. Don't you think so, Leopoldo?
I think, yes. We still don't have that many answers, though. I hope some will come throughout the day.
We do have questions, though.
So far, we have many breakout rooms organized where different panelists will be talking about topics. But this whole event circles around the idea of how we should transform our institute to remain relevant for the next 50 years. So it's not really an exercise of simple nostalgia, let's say, but we're also looking ahead, and we're very happy to be now joined by one of the persons who helped reshape this event a lot. We're here with Roeland, the head of the communications office from the United Nations, European University
Institute.
Oh my God, I'm already...
Hi, Leopoldo. Hi, Jan, and hi to all the listeners.
Good morning, Roeland. So we were discussing about the whole concept of EUIdeas and the fact that we are bringing up important questions for the future of Europe based on our research and activities we do here at EUI, but also we're looking for answers to those questions, importantly. So would you like to care about, explain a bit more about what this event comes from and what is the context of why we're here today?
Absolutely. I'm very happy to do so, and in particular to do so here on the radio, which is my first love. I actually started presenting the weather on a pirate radio when I was around 12. So anyway, it's great to be here with you. I'm quite excited and also a bit emotional about what's happening here today, because we are starting something new, a pilot of a research festival, which is open. A registration-based event where everyone is welcome, where we're really trying to open up the conversation, as opposed to a more of an invitation-only event, right? So we're trying to really put our academics in contact with other parts of society, and doing that through various formats. So on the one hand, I think it's a very well-curated event, and we had a lovely opening session with a keynote by our alumna, Shofra O'Leary, but also parallel sessions which have completely different formats, a quiz, a reenactment of an ICC court case. We have documentaries. So It's really coming together, but I think the key idea behind this is indeed to change a little bit the type of conversation that we're having, to dig deeper and open up.
And Roeland, how do you think about this event in terms of what's new? What is the new things that are being brought to the table? Yesterday we were commenting with Jan the amazing also opening that we have, where Roberto Mensola from the European Parliament encouraged us to think about the answers that we need for this challenging time. So how does this contribute to it all?
Well, that's a good question, Leopoldo. I think that somehow yesterday set the scene for today, as in, the leaders of local, Italian, European, they're very important for our institute and our connection with what happens in the world of policy and politics. But they need good knowledge indeed. And an alumnus actually said it in the opening plenary here actually quite nicely. The topic of EUIdeas this year is the power of knowledge. But this is also about the knowledge of power, as in what kind of knowledge do people in power have access to, and how does that inform their decisions? And I think what is new here in particular is that we want to take that conversation beyond just the contact between academics and politicians, but we also want to take it a little bit beyond the usual speeches, a very short Q&A, and everybody home, but to really have different ways of engaging with knowledge, of sharing it, and hopefully that will bring us a bit further on key questions that Europe is facing today. And let's face it, using that word, Europe is in trouble. The world is in trouble, right? There's a lot happening, and Europe needs to find its voice on the global scene, needs to find solutions to problems that no country can solve on its own. And we as a university, as a research university, have a responsibility there.
We've seen that there's also a lot of journalists coming in for this event, and obviously they are crucial in supporting us in getting our voice out there, in getting the research that we produce heard in the right cycles, especially in the policy cycles, but also afterwards in the general public. And I've seen you moving around the press corner, which actually I'm facing for those of you who are not here in the press. Can I ask you, as a personal curiosity, what were the things that the press was mostly interested in, both yesterday in our 50th anniversary event, but also today? Is there something that really was on top of their minds in their agendas, or?
That's a great question, Jan. Well, first of all, I think the fact that it's our 50th anniversary is for a lot of media outlets the right moment and excuse to say something about this institute. We always make a big effort to put our research in the spotlight, but it's not easy to get the institute featured. And actually also a key question that we got is, okay, so how come we know so little about this institute? You're so excellent. You've been around for 50 years, but barely anyone knows. And so we have a great opportunity to kind of, first of all, tell that basic story of the institute, but also, and we do that also via our media partnership, for example, with the Conversation Europe, which is more a platform where the research community, universities, have the opportunity to bring analysis to the foreground and share that with the broader public. They're doing a series of items related to the topics of EUIdeas. So there's actually broad interest. If I may add one final word on that, I think somehow there's a bit of a hype around AI and technology. Right. I think everyone realizes that a lot is happening, that this is a big revolution that is ongoing, that it will impact universities, but it will also inform how how society develops, and that these are urgent questions to look at. So I'd say that those are the things that came to the front.
I have a question, Roeland, because I don't want to forget this as well. You're a big supporter of Radio Cavolo overall, and also I want to thank your team because they have been amazing.
Absolutely.
Honestly,
a great organization.
They run to set this up with us, that we are not as technical, but they really did an amazing job. I don't want to forget anybody, but Gianluca, Alessandro,
Matthias,
George, like everyone. Yeah. Honestly, Chiara also with the setting up.
Yeah, and Chiara and Silvia, amazing help.
And this connects to a substantive question, because yesterday we were also doing some interviews with people to ask them how do they think that the EUI should transform to remain relevant for the next 50 years. And a lot has been said about communication, about how do we need to outreach, how do we need to engage. And I wonder, how do you think about these topics? Because, of course, being such an long-standing university, is very difficult to come up with new things or to get out of the rigid structures that constrain us.
Oh, wow, Leopoldo, that's the million-dollar question. But first of all, on my team, I'm very proud of them and how on a daily basis, and in particular in these special days, they do their utmost to bring the Institute, and in particular its researchers, in the best position to communicate the important things that they have to say. So those kudos for them are well deserved. But indeed, it's in our new vision, there's a lot of emphasis on how we communicate research. But I want to refer back to what Catherine de Vries, who is an alumna and who is now at IE University, said recently when she was here. In research, beyond the discovery phase, everything that happens next is communication, right? And that was an interesting conversation we had with a lot of researchers present. That there's so much. It's not only about press releasing a finding, about a social media video, a social post, whatever. There's a lot that one can do to do more about communicating research findings, also very early on in the process. And for us, this is work in progress, right? To kind of see how do we do that, the choices we make, to make choices, to use the finite resources we have in the right way, to make sure that the knowledge that we produce contributes. And it's a pleasure to work on that each and every day, and even more so during an anniversary week.
Absolutely, it's an exceptional case, and I think we fully benefited from that. So congratulations again for you and your team. I have one final question, which actually is a twofold question. On one side, I wanted to ask what are your personal goals for the day? So what would you like to see over the course of the day? Is there one session that you particularly look forward to, or is there something that you would like to get yourself personally? And the second one is a bit of a more abstract person. Let's say that a person working in an EU institution comes to visit us, and I'm sure there's many of them that we're looking at right now. What would you think that they may be most interested in? And the last question would be, do the two overlap in your opinion? Or?
I think they might. Unfortunately, in my role, and that is really quite a pity, I never get to enjoy any session in full. And by the way, that also was true during the opening ceremony yesterday, and it already was often kind of listen back to what people said afterwards. But that being said, so as personally, unfortunately, I do not have the luxury to take active part. The reenacted of the ICC court case here with Sarah now and colleagues, it's happening as we speak.
Yes.
In the refractory grade. I think the history quiz organized by our Department of History, I found that very interesting.
That's exciting.
Yeah, very, very nice. But to be honest, I think what makes this, and this might sound like a very diplomatic answer, but it's actually the mix that makes this event so strong, I hope. And maybe ask me, if you only have a few panels and then you have a few other things built around it, I think you create the right mix to keep people engaged, and I hope people will appreciate that.
I hope so too. And you mentioned two very important things. So one is the live streaming. So we are streaming live on Radio Cavolo, but also parts of the event are live streamed. So I invite all of you listeners to please connect also to different parts of what is going currently on the Badia. And you mentioned also then afterwards. We have a third streaming later tonight after the closing plenary. We'll call it the after party. It will be mostly unscripted, getting like raw reactions from the audience. So we look forward perhaps to having you later here to see what is something that you particularly like.
I would love to come back, and I want to congratulate you also with taking the initiative to set this up. I think it really adds something for a radio fan, but I think in general it's good to have our university radio present on this important day. And thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Roland. It was a pleasure having you here, and maybe see you later. Definitely see you around.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jan. Thanks, Leopoldo.
All the best for the rest of the day.
Roland.
Thank you, Roland. Goodbye.
Erik, come immediately. We found here the Erik Jones, the director of the Robert Schuman Centre.
Amazing. perfect timing.
So,
Thank you, Leopoldo, for being so reactive.
This is the spontaneity of, you know,
that's what
a
we
session
like.
this. This way, Erik, please. So this was a very interesting conversation with Roeland, and this is the spirit of this event, a lot of spontaneity. And Erik has recently been also a guest in my show. So Erik, welcome again to Radio Cavolo.
Oh, it's great to be here.
How you been doing?
Great. I mean, it's an amazing day. The weather is terrific, but the conversation is so interesting. I'm even willing to leave this beautiful weather to go inside to listen to colleagues talk about the stuff they've been working on.
What have you heard so far about the sessions? Which ones have you attended?
Well, so far I've been listening to the session about the new forms of European security and the way that impacts on research. And that conversation is particularly important for us because both we have to learn new modes of research and we have to learn new modes of cooperation when doing research so that we can be sure to get access to freely flowing information and not to see that information flow cut off.
Erik, I know security is a big priority, but more or less the overarching question of this event is what does the EUI need to do to remain relevant in the next 50 years? Do you have an idea, a thought on this?
Look, I mean, university research is always relevant. The trick is not to be relevant. The trick is to explain the relevance. And explaining the relevance of existing research is a skill. It's not something that people are born with. And what the EUI needs to do is to do what academics have been reluctant to do over the last 2 decades, which is to take very sophisticated analysis and findings and then to translate it not just into a language that people can understand, but into an operational form that allows people to use that knowledge in order to make their lives or the world at large a better place. And that's a very particular mode of communication. It's a very particular way of translating academic analysis. But there's a lot of real value to be harvested if we just pay attention to getting that particular job done.
Amazing, Erik. Do you have any other questions, Jan?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about how we can get out and be more visible. Obviously, that's $1 million question. We are organizing events such as this one to actually reach that objective of getting out there, meeting other people, bring people down here. But obviously, sometimes we are, as academics, perceived as a bit of an ivory tower, which I think is a problem everywhere. But perhaps in some countries it's a bit more felt than others. So, do you have any recipe that you would suggest as an academic and long-standing one yourself?
Okay, so, this whole ivory tower thing sounds terribly glamorous. First, it's made out of ivory, which you shouldn't be using to make anything anyway.
We're against animal cruelty.
and it's a tower, which sounds so dramatic, right? When the reality is that academic life is more like a monastic cell, right? You sit alone in a room and you do all this stuff. And it's very much like being in a cloister because you speak in a different language, right, which is a different idiom from everybody else in society. And it gets back to the point that we were making earlier. First, if we want to get out there, we actually have to have something to say that people want to hear, and they're not going to want to hear something that they can't understand, right? Well, not always going to want to hear something that they can't understand. And so we've got to get out of the box. But getting out of the box is hard. Academics are shy people. If we weren't shy, we'd be influencers, not academics, right? And when you look at the academics who become influencers, right, these big celebrity historians, what you see, the one thing they have in common is they're not shy, right?
Erik, thank you very much. I'll have to cut you because we have Shayofra O'Leary waiting for us in a very tight schedule.
Hey, man, so much better. It's great to talk with you guys.
Thank you very much, Erik. It was lovely having you here.
All right. Good luck pronouncing her first name correctly.